Since 2003, this is The Sports Source with your host, John Pennington.
The Sports Source is presented by Jump Be Gone, Pipe Wrench, and the Garza Law Firm.
The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Jump Be Gone studios for the Sports Source. We appreciate you being with us. Last night in Charlotte, Tennessee played one of the four best teams on their schedule, at least on paper. And if that 51-10 beatdown is any indication, it's going to be a very, very good year on Rocky Top. I have multiple VFLs and media buddies here to discuss that with. Well, I don't know that they'd call me buddy, but you know that is. But we've got 8 guys here along with me to discuss this game. We're going to break it down for you every which way you can. And let me tell you, it's probably going to be a very positive show. But in the spirit of the Sports Source, we will continue to look at it as coaches. We will look for weakest links. We will look for biggest disappointments. Don't be ticked off. That's just what we do here. All right, let's get into it. First segment of our show brought to you by our friends at the Garza Law Firm. If you watch our show, you know that I believe in working with local businesses. I feel there's value in those folks being part of the community, of knowing the people here. But when I look around and I see ads for attorneys on Knoxville television, I notice so many of those guys are not local. You can look them up, and well, they're in Birmingham, they're in Memphis, they are not here. Marcos Garza is here. He is local. He knows the local legal system. And he's got a local track record of people all over town you can ask about him. Great reputation. The Garza Law Firm. All right, let's welcome in the first wave of panelists. We have another wave coming in a minute, but right there, Jimmy Himes. VFL Mike Stoll in town. Welcome here. VFL Will Overstreet right here. Yep. Bob Hodge right there. All right, gentlemen. Tennessee annihilated number 24 NC State last night in Charlotte, 51-10. They won in every way a team can win. Offense was explosive. Run game was fantastic. Defense dominant. Will, I'll let you start. Top takeaway from last night's game.
Top takeaway was defense is for real. There's no other way around it. You had 13 tackles for loss. You had 3 sacks. You've gone 12 quarters without giving up a touchdown on defense. At this point, you have to look at this team and say, this is a strength of this team, that front 7 right now. The way those guys were playing of flying around, physically were beating NC State every time to the punch. When they tried to run the ball, there was nothing there. And it was one of the more impressive defensive, especially in that front 7, that I have seen from a Tennessee team in a long time. I just took a couple of plays also with Omari Thomas. They have a third down pass play. He reacts, gets out, makes the tackle downfield to save him from getting a first down. Arion Carter. You just had so many more guys that look like potential draft picks in the first and second string team of eventually, as they continue to grow, that these guys are NFL players. And we have not had that many on a team as much as we do right now. It is a deep defense, especially up front.
Bob, take
Go
away.
back to the 90s to see a defense, I think, that Tennessee that had that kind of depth.
Or at least 01.
Yeah.
You want to jump in there?
Yeah, we had that. But yeah, exactly.
I want to just talk about the diversity of the offense a little bit. Because you sat there and you saw last night, the tight ends seemed to be back in Tennessee's offense for the first time in a long, long time. And I thought that they not only looked the part, they looked athletic, and I was torn between that one and another thing about the defense. Where are the missed tackles that you're kind of gotten used to over the years? Guys coming in, they put in a shoulder, they try to go for a big hit.
They went in the transfer portal, by the way.
Yeah, they're now somewhere else.
Yesterday, the defense, when the guys beyond the line of scrimmage had a chance to make a play, they made it. And I think this time last year we were talking about, well, you got to clean up missed tackles and do these things. So those were the 2 biggest takeaways I had was, 1, you look like you got good depth and you're going to use your tight ends, and 2, your defense looks athletic and they can tackle.
Well, you've had 3 touchdowns, 1 from each of your tight ends so far, and you would have had a second one from Kitzman last night. We'll get into penalties later. But, Will, we were talking before the show about the troubles that a good tight end could present to a defense.
Yeah, a good tight end and a good system, when they're having one of those touchdowns was directly related to it. He was blocking, same play. He pops out for a pass. It gets those linebackers, it makes a life for linebacker very difficult because you can't trust your eyes. If you're having to watch that tight end and you see him block down, you're coming up to stop the run, well, all of a sudden he lets go and takes off. That is when you have an athletic tight end that's able to do that, it makes the life of the linebacker very, very difficult because it all looks the same, and then it pops a pass on you, and you're in trouble. You can't win in a lot of situations.
And I think Bob brings up a good point when you look at, you've got the run game, all right? You've got the deep ball is back. Now, you didn't see tons of it last night, but I think it's going to be there. You've got tight ends that you're getting involved now. You ran 3 shovel passes. It's like Nico can run if you box him in. If you're an opposing defensive coordinator, there's a lot of stuff to worry about with that offense. But Mike, Jimmy, your top takeaway from last night?
Yeah, so for me, I'll take it a little bit step further on Will. The 2 interior defensive tackles just beat the crud out of those inside guys. There was a stat they showed at the beginning of the game, how many starts these offensive linemen had and how much depth. And they had a couple of 7-year guys. Like, it took me 7 years to get through college, but like, I only got to play for like 4.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
These guys are still playing. They're 33 years old. I don't know. But the thing about it is, all those starts, if I'm an offensive lineman and I have that many starts under my belt, I just got my rear end handed to me by 2 really good defensive tackles. And I expect the depth and the way that they rotate those guys through, that's going to be a big, big point of emphasis. Look for them to continue to do that.
Jimmy.
I thought there were 3 players on NC State's offense Tennessee needed to contain. So the quarterback, Grace McCall, ends up with 110 yards of total offense when quarterbacks all over the country are putting up video game numbers, right? He has 110 yards of total offense.
A guy with 10,000 yards under his belt for his career. So it's not like
passing, that's
yeah,
right.
He's not usually a 100-yard guy. Yeah,
Right, and over 1,000 yards rushing. Concepcion, the wide receiver, 53 yards. He had one explosive play when they did a nice job isolating on the linebacker, but you kept him contained.
Yep.
The running back, Jordan Waters, 7 carries, -4 yards. You completely shut down their 3 weapons you had to stop. And I thought that was a really good defensive effort in that regard.
The Concepcion thing, no, we didn't see the secondary. Look, we went into this season saying the secondary is new. That's the question mark. You're going to have that defensive line that really bails them out. Well, they did last night. I mean, the defensive line made it difficult on McCall to get anything downfield. But when he did get passes off, he wasn't able to get anything going with Concepcion, a guy who had 10 touchdown catches last year. He had 3 in their opening game against Western Carolina. The fact you contained him, I don't want to go completely all in on the secondary. Oh, we were wrong. They're fantastic. There will be more tests down the road. But, boy, that's a really good first test. If you'd asked me before the game, will Tennessee hold him to 5 catches and 50 yards, I said there's no way. So kudos to Tim Banks. And that's a guy I want to throw out some credit for right here because – every loss, people go back to fire Tim Banks. This defense has gotten better statistically, whether you believe it or not. It's gotten better statistically. I don't care what your eyes tell you. For 3 straight years, it's gotten better every year. It looks better again this year. Rodney Garner's a heck of a D-line coach. Everybody knows that. But how about some credit for Tim Banks? That guy has put a really good defensive unit together that would be downright scary if you're an offensive coordinator. That's the interesting thing for me. When you look across this team, athletes, you're just seeing better athletes. Bob, we talked about it last night. It's been a long time since Tennessee has had this many, whether they're young, inexperienced or not, you got athletes you got horses out there for the first time in a long time.
Everybody that I know that got to go see a full practice, that was the first takeaway that they had was, my gosh, this team is athletic. They're athletic everywhere. Everybody
Bigger,
can
faster.
run.
Yeah.
And so you saw it last night. I mean, North Carolina State, no, are they Alabama or Georgia? But like you said, that's one of the 4 best teams on paper, and they made them look like Vanderbilt. And I mean, and that's about what North Carolina State looked like. I mean, they were a ranked team, you know. So I think that athleticism shows up. The Concepcion kid, what did he have after he touched the ball? Very little. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of he catches a 2-yard pass and turns it into a 12-yard. No, he catches a 2-yard pass and he turned it into a 4-yard pass. You know, and that's athleticism on your defense.
I think the secondary, not only they're better tacklers than a year ago, they're more physical. than they were a year ago.
Yes.
To your point about not missing tackles as well, I thought they did a nice job in that regard.
Let me throw out 3 names here in case you don't come up a little later. Will Brooks. Everybody's going to make a big deal out of the walk-on status. I'm guessing he's getting some NIL dollars, so I wouldn't worry about it. But I'm sure his parents would like to have him on scholarship. Josh Heupel didn't seem. Holly Rowe throws him a softball joke. And he just has no personality to handle it. He just kind of moves on, doesn't say anything, doesn't take the bait on joking about Will Brooks. But credit to him, he almost got a second pick there as well. Max Gilbert, 3 of 4 on field goals, missed a 53-yarder, but okay, that's sketchy on the college ranks. I do think you've got we'll get there. I think you found a kicker. We'll debate this a little later. I think you're in the next segment. And then the other thing I'll throw out, Deshaun Bishop. One of the plays that stood out to me was the interception. Goes back for a touchdown. Deshaun Bishop doesn't make the play, but he tackles him in the end zone. He almost made the play. The fact that he's out there running him down from behind. I just think this team is showing some things we haven't seen in a while.
Against Chattanooga, Tennessee made a big deal about Nathan Laycock chasing a guy on the interception and tackling him on the 10. Well, I think you saw the same thing with Deshaun Bishop, making that kind. And Bishop is not a 4.40 guy, right?
Yeah.
But he kept going after him, and I thought that said a lot about his effort and the culture of this team.
Agreed. All right, when we come back, the best player, the worst decision, the biggest disappointment from last night's game. And if Mike's still on, we'll let him bash Max Gilbert, poor kid. Going back on the Sports Source. Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by A.G. Hines Company. Nudura concrete forms, cultured stone. When it comes to the materials that look best, are the most cost efficient, are the most energy efficient, A.G. Hines Companies, they carry them. They've been around for a century, but they have more cutting-edge building materials than anyone in East Tennessee. A.G. Hines Company. Check them out at aghines.com this week. All right, I want to welcome in the next 2 members of our panel. Right down there, Josh Ward. Josh, thanks for being here.
Thanks, John.
And right here, Chuck Cavaliers. Chuck,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you for joining us. Time for our poll question, brought to you by Hearthside Bank. Just like them, the poll question's always within reach. You can either use your smartphone and get the QR code, or you can go to sportsource.tv and hit the polls button and get there. But your question today, how have the Vols' first 2 games impacted your outlook? And your choices are, they haven't, or I'm more hopeful, or I'm more certain, or playoffs, baby. So you see the leader, I'm more hopeful. So yeah, we got some people that are being kind of realistic here. It looks like the second runner-up, and I apologize, we don't have a monitor right up here, so we're having to look over there. That's why my eyes are going that. Looks like the second place, would you guys agree, is playoffs, baby? Or am I wrong on that? It doesn't matter. No one's talking. So when I ask these questions, I won't respond. But we're all old. Okay.
I can't see.
Josh.
Yeah.
What does it say?
Playoffs, baby.
I thought with all the oars, it was a Tennessee depth chart.
Is that what's leading? I'm just sitting here just silent.
Don't let me in.
I just want some pudding.
Here we go. I just pictured you as Grandpa Simpson. All right.
There you go.
Best player on the field last night, Josh or Chuck? Who wants it first?
Well, I mean, I'll go ahead and try and get something real quick. To me, it's Dylan Samson again. Now he's got 5 touchdowns.
100 yards in the third
100
straight
yards
game.
rushing. We mentioned a great point by you, John, about chasing down the interception.
Deshaun Bishop.
Trying to get to him in the end
Kiss us
zone.
up. You need to learn.
So I mean, I just think yet again, I mean, he continues to show up, and he gains some tough yards. So I think it definitely deserves some props.
Yep. All right. Best player on the field.
Yeah, Samson's on my list just because he makes key plays, he makes explosive plays. He's a big part of what they do offensively. Choosing one defensive lineman seems like an impossible task, so I'll try to choose one. He made a big play early, Omar Norman-Lott, when NC State's trying to drive down the field. I don't think Omar gets enough attention, which again is really difficult to do because of all the guys up front, but he's a guy that I think could be playing today, meaning in the NFL today. He chose to come back for another year, and that's a big part of the depth of Tennessee's defensive line.
I have a feeling he's going to be the second defender that gets drafted behind James Pierce. He's a guy that can make
Good
when you've got a defensive tackle who can not only stuff the run but also crushes the pocket. Those guys make a ton of cash. Best player on the field.
I go with Dylan Sampson because of his yardage that he got, 132 yards rushing, but it was after contact. He got a lot. I mean, he got hit 1 or 2 yards down the field, and then he got a lot more yards. And that's the thing. You saw him falling forward. So if he gets 20 touches and he gets 2 more yards after contact, that's 40 additional yards that he would gain rushing. So I like the way that he rushes physically.
I sensed a little ex-offensive lineman in that. Okay. Bob, who's the best player?
Dylan Samson.
Okay, good. We'll move on quickly. Worst decision last night. Bob, I know we exchanged text right when it happened.
2 minutes and some odd seconds to go in the first half, and you come out and you run. Now, if you don't have a holding penalty that pushes you back, maybe it works. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more aggressiveness in that situation. I thought it reminded me last year of how they handled things with Joe Milton. With Hendon Hooker, 10 seconds to go, hey, we got to go 80 yards, but I think we can get a field goal out of this. It just seemed to me that was a little bit conservative for your offense last night. I would like to see a little bit more aggressiveness in the 2-minute situation.
And I want to ask this. Okay, so he says that's the worst decision tonight when you went kind of conservative there at the end of the half. I'm not arguing that point, but I will say I wonder if it's not just we're bringing, Nico isn't Joe Milton, but he's also not Hendon Hooker yet.
No.
Let's not let him. He's thrown a pick. Let's not let this. Let's not give them an easy one. Let's not make a mistake here. Let's take our 3. I just wonder if they're trying to bring him along slowly, which is why they didn't jam the foot to the gas.
And you still got a field goal right at the end of the half.
Well, yeah,
correct?
but
I mean, it's not like you didn't get any
But it
points.
wasn't the go that you saw in 2022.
I would just say, hey, in this situation, let's go ahead and work on it now, because if it's Alabama or if it's Georgia, okay, we've got a little bit of 2-minute drill under his belt that isn't just hand it off.
Your thoughts on this? The decision to just kind of slow play it there at the end of the half instead of letting Nico take his shots?
Well, I understand Bob's point. I wonder if they also thought we'd get the ball at the start of the second half, so why risk anything to help NC State? Let's see what we can do here, knowing we're also going to have another chance coming out of the half. I thought actually Bob was going to go right before that. I thought Dave Doran's decision to not take it down to the 2-minute timeout. They snapped it with a few seconds before. I was sure that they would take the timeout and then allow clock to run after, or force Tennessee into a timeout, assuming they didn't get the first down. So I thought that was costly by Dave Doran to allow Tennessee a little extra time at the end of the half.
All right, have you got a worse decision? Or
Mine is Max Gilbert's field goal late in the game. 53-yarder, right? Now, we talked about 53-yarder in college now is not a long field goal. It really isn't. I mean, you see guys kicking 55, 56. It's on the outer edge. But here's what it does for me. As a coach on the opposing team, I'm like, okay, this guy doesn't have the range. So now I know where I've got to get to. So I play a little bit differently when I'm going against them. Like, okay, they got to kick a field goal to win. How do I defend that? I defend it a little bit differently because they don't have a guy with a cannon of a leg. And, it's a long field goal, but he made one earlier, and he just skirted it in on the side. So I don't know where his confidence is. As a freshman, how's he going to handle a big game?
I think that's fair. I think that's very much fair. But I have a feeling you can look at it the other way. I could see Heupel saying, "Well, I got to know what his range is."
You got to know what his range is. I understand, but you're showing a late field goal. Again, you got all this distance. Now, if you're going in and I'm a defensive team and I've got a 2-minute situation, okay, here's how I defend soft to a certain area before.
But it's not like he came up short. He had plenty of leg, right? I mean, he just missed it late.
Yeah, he had plenty of leg.
He had plenty of legs, so I don't think
just
that
like
was
the decision kicking field goals in that situation when you got such a huge lead.
Right. I mean, because then you're thinking, what if they block it?
All right.
No, I'm just thinking.
Can I give
kick a field goal when I'm ahead 51 to 40 or 51 to 10?
Can I give one disappointment?
Yeah, quickly.
James Pierce. I mean, is something else going on there?
Worst decision? This doesn't fit worst
Well,
decision.
not playing. I mean, he's not.
They're double teaming him for one thing.
Right.
Well, let's get to. All right, I think we jumped ahead. We went from worst decision. Biggest disappointment is next. Is that James Pierce? And let me just say this. So many people got mad last week. We have a question in this show. It's supposed to be tough. So it's going to be easy when Tennessee loses. When they win, it's a tough question, tough discussion.
Right.
It's biggest disappointment for this game. We said last week, was it a disappointment? You only got 1 sack against Chattanooga. I got pilloried for that. It's like, oh, what are you thinking? They're going to be good. Nobody said they're going to be bad. It was a disappointment last week. All right, now, James Pierce, he's got no sacks on the year. He's got 1 tackle on the year. He's got a half tackle for loss on the year.
That's right.
Is that a disappointment? Is that where you're going?
Yes, that's what I got right here. Biggest disappointment. To me, it is, and I just wonder if there's something else going on there. I hope there's not.
I just think he's being double teamed,
Yeah.
which I thought going into the season. Not to mention the fact you got to be Jadeveon Clowney if you're going to be the best college football player in the country and as a defender.
And it'd be a defensive end. You're right. Yep.
Yeah.
And I didn't think he was Jadeveon Clowney coming in. I think he's a hell of a player.
Right.
I think he could be the number 1 draft pick. I don't think he's Jadeveon Clowney. I don't think he's going to be the number 1 player in college football on defense this year. I may be wrong. Your thoughts on biggest disappointment? Is it James Pierce at this point or something else or what?
I think some of the penalties that Tennessee got, just clean them up a little bit. Peely had a late hit that was kind of like.
Stupid.
Yeah, it was like, all right, dude, I get it. You're 7 years into this.
Blocking the back on the
Know
punt
when to do it.
return. I mean,
Cost yourself.
yes.
I'm not concerned about Pierce Jr. They're scheming him.
Yeah, they're double teaming him.
Yeah.
The good news is you haven't missed him.
Well, because you got other guys that are
Right.
really, really good.
Exactly.
And they're eventually going to have to adjust for them.
Yeah.
And that's when he starts coming up.
Bob, the 7 penalty, you also cost yourself a touchdown for another
Yeah, you
tight
had a
end
touchdown call back. The holding penalty on the 2-minute drill, kind of negated. Okay, if you are trying to run it, get close, it negated that. And I mean, you had one unsportsmanlike conduct penalty that was offset.
That
so
wasn't-
you would have had 4 15-yard penalties
Personal
if that
fouls.
one doesn't get offset.
And
And
then-
that's just too much.
Cam Selden already missing a game because he's hurt. I mean, come on. You don't have enough depth there already.
Oh, wow. Disappointing. He's been hard today. Josh?
Mainly just you guys, disappointing you and your negativity.
Very good. All right. When we come back, the Vols look awfully darn good. But Mike Stoll isn't a rest on your laurels kind of guy because he has no laurels. What is Tennessee's weakest link? We came into the season saying, well, secondary, maybe the offensive line. Well, let's pick some nits. Is there a weak link? Come on back on the Sports Source.
Well, I don't.
And we're actually away the whole. Well, we're back. Okay, welcome back to the Sports Source. Thanks for being with us. This segment brought to you by Parkside Cabin Rentals. At some point, fall is going to arrive. It arrived last night, actually. You can tell I didn't rewrite this. Parkside Cabin Rentals is where you need to get to go in the fall. The leaves start changing. It's beautiful up there in the Smokies, and there's no better group in terms of renting a cabin because they have so many different types of cabins. And you can go to parksidecabinrentals.com and check out all the floor plans for yourself. Pick the perfect one for you and your friends or family. Parkside Cabin Rentals. All right, let me welcome in the next 2 members, final 2 members today. We got Sterling Hinton, VFL Marlon Wallace. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. I know it was a fun night for you.
Yeah.
Well, you were busy, but a fun night watching the Vols
That's it.
put it on like they did.
That's it.
It's the Stoll train, which means I let Mike Stoll have his say, have his question. I told you, don't be negative, but here we go.
Yeah.
No, what are you going to do, Mike?
So it's tough to be negative on this, but think about it. Tennessee scored 120 points in the 2 games. Defensively, they've not given up a touchdown yet, so they look really, really good. My question to the VFLs: what's the weakest? What's the weakest link or unit on this team?
Well, if we went to recent biases and just looked at last night, you would say the wide receiver core because it didn't show up, and everywhere else did show up. But I still think if I look at it, I still go, I don't trust the secondary at this point. I just look at it and go, if they have more time, what happens then? So I think it's a prove me kind of thing. I'm not saying I don't think they've gotten better, but I want to see, one-on-one, man coverage. You get a wide receiver, he catches the ball. Does that guy get the guy on the ground, or are they able to make plays? So I'm still in a wait and see. I still think the secondary is your potential of where you're looking. But I have to say, last night was not a good showing for the wide receivers. So when it came to big-time competition, you didn't have anybody that broke out and made any big plays.
You didn't take many deep shots, only a couple, one to McCoy, one to White. You had the overthrow and the interception, but you didn't take a lot there. I think Thornton was only targeted once or twice the whole game. But 23 passes, there weren't a lot of big plays for the receivers. All right, there we go. What is the weakest link on this team, period? Not just last night, but period. If you have to pick one, and it's nitpicking.
Yeah, it is. It is. I would still say I'm with Will on this. I still don't trust the DBs. I think when you go against a group where you've got multiple guys, so you're looking down the line, and again, we're still nitpicking, but like you're looking down the line where you've got 2 receivers, that's like a concession that can get you beat. The other thing is like wide receiver wise, I know that they said in the telecast they pushed their safeties all the way back to make sure they take away the deep shots. I wonder if that was the case. That kind of the reason why we didn't see that production that we saw last week from Thornton, if that was the case this week. But I would still say the DBs.
All right, where are you going, Sterling?
Weakest link, I got 2 that's tied.
Okay.
First one is me. It's my fault, man. I only predict we're going to win 42-10. I said 42, but
you underestimated it.
I underestimated, but the weakest link I think is our strongest link. And this is what I mean by that. I think our strongest person hasn't showed what we know he can do yet. And that's Dr. James Pierce. I think Pierce they're sliding. So I seen him get triple teamed 5 times last night in the game. They slid the line to him and chipped it back on him. But when he breaks out, when people realize the legitimacy of his other teammates in that front line, and they start having a one-on-one and play more attention to other people, and they one-on-one him, be ready. The strongest link showing up.
Okay, Josh, if you could tweet for us, Sterling Hinton says James Pierce is Tennessee's weakest link. There we go. All right, Mike, I know where you're going. This question was asked for one reason.
So absolutely, yeah. So it's the offensive line. I still have a lot of questions on. But sir, don't listen to me. Listen, all right. So like, I have a trained eye of understanding of good sets, bad sets, and everything. They are a little bit slow. Samson had a lot of yards after contact. He wasn't like had gaping holes to gash through. It was a different bit of a scheme, but the interception Nico threw. Spragan, that was a horrible set. And then you got your tackles. I'm not confident with the way they're setting. They're not setting well, and you see Nico kind of having to step up and throw. So when you're facing elite defensive ends, I question that. So I think that is they're still a pretty good unit, but I think they're their weakest unit.
I thought they got better last night in the pass game. I thought they got better as it went on. I did not like the way it started.
Yeah.
That first drive, Nico was having to run. He was taking a few too many hits. That is not what you want to see because he is still not a big guy.
Yeah,
but I thought they improved.
They did improve.
But I don't have a trained eye for the sets.
For the sets, the way just the foots and the way the feet set and the short sets and everything. There's short corners that are there. Look out for that in big games. Look for somebody getting around the corner quick. Just what do I know?
There you go. No, that's why it's the Stoll train.
That's
all right. When we come back, true or false, the defense is more likely to carry this team to the playoff than the offense. Wow. Let's tackle that hot take next on the Sports Source. Okay. Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. Whether you need a one-time spraying for your home or office, a specialty treatment for mosquitoes, termites, regularly schedule preventative maintenance visits. I mean, right now, fall is coming. That means all these critters are going to want to come into your house. They're going to want to say, hey, it's going to be warm in there. Let's go in there. So if you don't want to see the spiders coming in, or eventually if you don't want to get the ladybugs in there and the stink bugs and all that stuff, Southeast Termite and Pest Control. That's who you call. Haynes family does a great job since 1971. Southeast Termite and Pest Control. Let's remind you of the poll question, see where that thing stands. Not that any of us can really see it from here, but it appears to me that the leader is still more hopeful with the runner-up being playoffs baby. Doesn't look like we got a lot of people saying it hasn't impacted your view on the game so far, and not a lot of people saying that you're more certain. It's more hopeful, followed by all-in playoffs baby. Go ahead, click, tell us what you think. We'll continue to follow that as the show goes on. We appreciate you playing it. All right, Jimmy, I'll give you a crack at this first. I'm not so sure I don't believe this, by the way. Yes, it's a hot take, but I'm not sure I don't believe it. True or false? The defense will lead Tennessee. If Tennessee makes the playoff, it will be the defense that leads them there, not the offense, which is something I never thought I would say with this veer and shoot offense. I didn't think it was possible to have this kind of defense because nobody's ever done it. Mm-hmm. I think the defense could be the role. True or false? Defense more important than the offense in terms of making the playoff.
Actually, I think it's the kicker. But since that's not one of the questions, I'm going to go with I'm going to say it's true, and I'm going to say it for this reason. I think back to the 2022 team when Tennessee led the nation in scoring, but they also lost a couple of games because they gave up 60-something points with South Carolina. They beat Alabama, and Alabama scored 49. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think the offense I expect to be really good. Mm-hmm. But defensively, I think what I've seen so far is a defense that can hold or even shut down some of the better offensive teams that they play. So I'm going to say if they get there, it's because the defense steps up against some of the better opponents and contains them to the point where Tennessee can win games. So I'm going to go defense.
All right, Will?
It definitely, in my mind, has to be here for the first part of the year. Where I go in the second half of the year or later in the year, I expect my offense to have to be the best possible way it can possibly be at that point in time.
Nico will be up to speed.
Yeah, exactly. But your defense definitely has to, in this first part of the season, has to be the reason you get through some of these games in Norman, Oklahoma, and other places like that. And then eventually my expectation is that the offense starts taking care of the defense. Because even in this amount of depth and everything, we know this offense leaves you out in the field a long time. That's body blow after body blow as you go through the season. So I expect the defense to get a little regress and the offense to get better. At the same time, with this defensive front and the depth, I think they have a chance to continue to be at this level, closer to this kind of level than any of the other defenses in the past. So if I can get a defense that keeps the other team from being able to hold the ball on our offense late in the season, then that would be the key to say the defense is going to lead the charge and why you get to the playoffs.
Marlon Walls, another defender over here. True or false? If the Vols make a playoff run, it's the defense that will get them there, not the offense.
It could be the defense.
Now you're Cavaliers in our question.
It could
True
be
or
the
false,
defense.
man? There's no good.
I would say false.
Okay.
I would say the offense has got to be super explosive. You've got to be able to win a shootout in some of the big games. And the reason why I say it could be is when you look at our depth at the defensive line, if you look at our linebacker position, Peely hit a couple guys last night that made me cringe. He's got that dog in him. And then secondary-wise, they're young, but they're athletic. And so it's going to take them some time. But the reason why I say it's got to be the offense because just a couple things I saw last night that still got me. We're running like ET stunts on the defensive line, and guys are coming around the edge and not using their hands, and they're still standing in the backfield, right? You've got to defeat the guy in front of you first before you go try to make a sack. That's something we've got to improve on. And then the other thing is we've got to have Pierce on the field more than what he is right now. He's got. I don't know if he has to express that to the coaching staff, but like that guy is he's a world talent as far as long, athletic, physical, fast. He's got to be on the field more, especially to help this defensive back where we've got some young guys. So I would say it could be, but right now I'm going to lean towards the offense just because there's some things we got to clean up as well.
True or false, Bob?
I'm going to go with true it's relative. We've put up for several years Josh Heupel's record when his team scored less than 30 points. So your defense doesn't have to be world-beating, record-setting great, but you need to win more games when your offense can't get over 30, and this defense looks like the kind of defense that, offense scored 28, defense held them 24. You win a ball game that typically in the past Josh Heupel's teams have lost.
Like the A&M game a year ago.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting the two defenders are the ones that say this is false or could be false as opposed to true, and us media guys say true. I think, though, I go your way. I expect the offense to be good, but if you're only asking the offense to score 40 instead of 50 to get the win, that's a huge step in the right direction, which is the same thing you're saying. But last night, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. NC State started 3 of 3 on third downs, then didn't get another one all night, 0 for 12 from there on. Only 143 yards of total offense. They got 1.4 yards per rush, 3 pass breakups last night, 4 quarterback hurries, 3 sacks, 3 takeaways. The danger is, every year there's one game where you just crap the bed.
Yeah.
And you're like, where'd that come from? And every year there's one game where it's like, holy smokes, where did that come from? We're acting as though this is the baseline for this defense. It's possible this could be the, holy smokes, where did that come from? But I do think if they play to the level we've seen so far, I've never seen a championship. I've never seen the veer and shoot win a championship, okay? Because typically it doesn't have a good defense paired with it. Right. Art Briles never had a defense like this. Lane Kiffin hasn't had a defense like this. Okay. Now this may be testing that. If you can put this kind of defense and these kind of athletes on your defense with that kind of offense, maybe this chances of winning a title either now or down the road are increasing for Josh Heupel.
Because of the quality of your athletes, I think you are closer to the baseline with what you saw last night.
I am interested also when Tennessee goes against a team with really good offensive line. I know North Carolina State had a lot of players coming back, but they didn't dominate Western Carolina.
No.
And it's an ACC line, yes, and they didn't.
So,
That's what I was just about to point out.
And that's where you're going to see, like, we're going to be able to tell a little bit more when that happens. When they're able to one-on-one guys and not have a scheme, and like I said, that's when the secondary of shows up. Is that your weakness or not? Is when they get plenty of time to throw the ball. Then you're going to see what's my secondary got.
They got 8 SEC games. They're going to test them. I mean, that's still ahead. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about Nico. What are his best attributes so far? What does he still need to work on? Come on back on the Sports Source. Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine. Selection, no one carries more different makes, models of boats in all of East Tennessee. Pricing, they ship boats to Florida to California because their deals beat everyone across the country. Customer service, families have been brought back year after year after year to Madisonville Marine. There's a reason I say it, and it's true. There's no better place to buy a boat. All right, quick segment here. We're going to play a little catch-up here. We'll start with the easy one. We're going to talk all about Nico with my former offensive VFLs, Mike Stoll, Sterling Hinton. What's his best attribute so far?
Leadership and just raw skills. The man can throw the ball, and he throws all kinds of balls and throw them
Pick
all
one
well.
of those.
The best one I like his intermediate throw.
Okay.
He throws it firm and a very firm and catchable ball. Tight ends love that stuff.
There was a series last night. He throws a little 10-yard out all the way to the left sideline. Then he comes back, hits another 10-yard all the way to the right. It's like, this kid's got an arm.
Yeah,
just an easy little throw that would have not been that way last year. Kid's got an arm.
And his art to find the right location to put it on the receiver's body. I love it, man. I love it.
It's his quick decision, right? He sees it and he makes the throw. He processes quickly. Last year we didn't see that, right? So you see things processing quicker to where it's like, that's it, boom, throw.
There's no spinning wheel of death as it renders.
Buffering.
All right, so then let's get to the fun part. What's he need to work on? If I make Sterling Hinton, I know you don't like doing this. If I make Sterling Hinton quarterback coach,
Yes.
what's the thing he most needs to work on? What are you working with?
Well,
Footwork or what? What are you doing?
Well, I think his footwork is definitely above average. But what I think all quarterbacks should work on, especially Nico being his time behind the pocket, is recognition of the coverage. A couple of times, and it's just because of his youth and actual game experience, he's missed a couple of guys running free, but he's going through his progression and he doesn't get an extra millisecond. But because he's processing faster, get that little extra pause that comes with game experience, and that's what I think he needs to work on: just processing the coverage faster, but giving that pause, let the play happen a little longer.
Yes, Stoll.
Well, for me, I think it's he looks a little bit antsy in the pocket. Now his offensive line is maybe giving him reason to.
All roads lead back to the offensive line.
Back to the offensive line. I did like I was telling Sterling off camera, but that one throw that they called back to the tight end where he was retreating, and he threw off of his back foot. When he threw it before they panned to the tight end, I was like, oh gosh, don't throw that. Don't throw. That is not where you throw a ball. Now, the tight end was wide open, and he has the arm to get to it. I would like to see him be a little bit more calmer in the pocket.
I'd like to see him get down quicker. There were one or two spots yesterday where I just thought, okay, you got the first down, slide.
Yeah,
slide. And I know he wants as many yards as he can get. He's a competitor.
That's that
but
dog.
Boy, I just want to see him take care of himself. Yeah. Marlon Wall said last week, teach him to fall, because he does crumple up in a certain way. Sometimes he was hit last night. He got it from the front and the back. It's kind of a high-low at one point, and it cuts away. It's showing the pass go down the field, and I'm like, oh boy, what are we going to find when it cuts back? He's getting up fine, but I still worry about his size taking too many hits, especially when he gets outside the pocket. It's like, get out of bounds, get down.
And that's a good point. And that comes with the game experience, John P. But he's a dog, man. Nico's an exceptional talent, an exceptional guy, an exceptional leader, and a great teammate. And that dog, it's hard to tame that dog down given certain plays, and he'll learn that through game experience.
I think the way he carries himself, to use Coach Major's word, his comportment is very good. He's got great comportment. All right. When we come back, I don't want to get carried away, but looking around the SEC right now, Is Tennessee a legit contender to make Atlanta? Now, you got Georgia and Texas, but I don't know how many other teams I'd put way ahead of the Vols right now. Let's discuss that when we come back on the Sports Source. Come on back. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Daniel Hood Roofing. Homeowners always focus on the roof, and for good reason. A leaky roof can do some serious damage to your home. But gutters are also vital to leak prevention. Best time to get them checked or replaced? It's in the fall, before all the leaves fill them up. Daniel Hood Roofing can do that for you. Get in touch with them this week. Check out their website, danielhoodroofing.com. What you'll find are just a zillion testimonials from happy customers all over East Tennessee. Daniel Hood Roofing. All right, let's take a look at the poll results and see what the final answers were. It didn't change. We're going to have more hopeful. That's what the winner was, and then second place was playoffs, baby. So there you go. Appreciate you playing along with us. We'll do the polls each and every week. Our polls are always within reach, just like Hearthside Bank. All right, back with Josh and Chuck. When you look at how dominant Tennessee was yesterday versus a top 25 NC State team, and then you look around the SEC, I think you have to feel pretty good about where Tennessee is. The problem is, as I said in that last or couple segments ago, there's the day where you have everything come together and the day where everything falls apart. You know it's coming. But overall, you got Georgia and Texas way up here. I did have Alabama higher above Tennessee, but what I'm seeing from Tennessee right now, you get Alabama at home, I'm feeling that that's more of a toss-up than I might have thought going into the season. And I don't know that I would really say anybody else on the schedule or in the league, if you played everybody, if you played round robin, I don't know if there's anybody else in the league where I'd say, oh, yeah, they're clearly better than Tennessee, other than just Georgia, Texas, maybe Alabama.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I totally agree. I think when you look at the other teams that are real contenders, like Texas is a real contender. Look at what the Longhorns did in
National
Michigan.
championship contender.
Yeah. But Tennessee doesn't have to deal with Texas unless it gets to Atlanta to play in the SEC title game. Ole Miss, I think, can be that, but Tennessee doesn't see Ole Miss. So Bama at home, and then Georgia's the favorite. Look at what that program is. But if Tennessee's defensive line, to go back to some of the conversation already on the show, if the defensive line and the defense overall can be for real along the way, then it's going to give Tennessee a chance against just about everybody. Again, we'll see with Georgia on the road, but Tennessee will have an advantage against most opponents, and that'll put the Vols in play. Like Oklahoma's going to be a real tough test on the road, but Oklahoma's probably trying to figure out more things early in the season than Tennessee appears to be.
They had struggled with Houston last night. Yeah.
Right. Well, the key part of that is when you add contender. Are they a contender? Well, contender, you're going to have two right away. Then you're going to have three or four others that fall into that contender category, right?
Yeah.
Sure, you're a contender to make it there, but remember, we've talked about this before, that getting to Atlanta is huge, but being able to just get in the playoffs, that, you get that first round bye if you win the SEC, but you could be a number 5 seed and host a game in Neyland Stadium in December, playoff game. That'd be awesome.
You look at going into the season, Tennessee was looked at as probably 6th or 7th in the SEC in most of these rankings and most of the polls you saw taken. If you had to do that today, would Tennessee still be 6th or 7th? Or would you, if we're doing stock up, stock down, and that would change every week. So if we're back here next week talking about something that's completely flipped, that's how football is. We take it as we see it. Oklahoma wouldn't be above Tennessee.
No, I think Ole Miss maybe.
Ole Miss maybe, Missouri maybe,
but
Alabama would be, and you got Georgia and Texas. But I think you've jumped Oklahoma. Have you jumped LSU? I think so.
Yes.
So, all right. So you've gone from 6th or 7th to 4th or 5th.
Right.
Yeah, I right now, and some teams haven't had a chance to prove it. Tennessee against a quality opponent in NC State. We'll see how their season plays out. But Tennessee, I think I would feel more confident there than Missouri, which beat up on Tennessee last year, but last year's over, and we've talked about some of the changes this year. So Tennessee's had a chance to show that their stock should rise. So confidently, I would say Georgia and Texas. Texas going to Michigan, even with what they lost. That's a statement win. Bama still has the personnel, but again, head-to-head, Tennessee will have the home field opportunity. Everybody else, I think Tennessee has a strong case to be made against. Ole Miss has the personnel. Their tougher part of the schedule's in the second half of the season.
Jackson Dart did yesterday was complete his first 24 passes. So
we're seeing coaches, I think, also try to make some statements to committees for the future.
Yeah.
Like what Lane Kiffin's doing with Jackson Dart in that offense. Missouri in the final minute or so tacks on a touchdown against Buffalo last night.
Right.
So I think they're trying to show what they're capable of. Tennessee was able to do it, though, in a top 25 matchup on ABC.
But you look around the league so far, Alabama struggled with South Florida. Arkansas put up nearly 700. You're sitting there thinking, okay, this is going to be a step in the right direction. Then they turn the thing over 18 times and lose the game. Auburn losing at Cal. I thought Auburn was a team that could be ranked by the end of the year. Okay, I think I was wrong. Florida creamed by Miami last week, although the quarterback changed this week. Kentucky, awful at home against
Who
South
saw
Carolina.
that coming?
My goodness.
Yeah,
and South Carolina, which struggled with ODU, goes to Lexington and just strangles Kentucky.
Tennessee might beat Kentucky by however many points Josh Heupel wants to.
Yeah, you're favored by basically 10 at home at Kentucky, and you score 6 points.
And you look at Texas A&M, who you went into the season saying they got all kinds of talent. Okay, Notre Dame goes down and beat them. Well, it's no shame in losing to a top 5 Notre Dame. And then Notre Dame goes home and loses at South Bend to Northern Illinois.
Ouch.
I don't know that the SEC, it really looks like a haves and have-not league right now. Now, you'll have some upsets. That's what happens in this league. But it really looks like you've got this group and then this group, and there's not a lot in the middle at the moment. But and that's my view. We'll see. All right, when we come back, our VFLs debate what creates a bigger challenge for opposing coaches. You would think they're sitting there every week facing Tennessee. They're dreading how to stop that offense. Are they now sitting there thinking, oh, my gosh, how do we kickstart our own offense against that defense? Come on back on the Sports Source. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Safety Systems. If you're in need of a new security system for your home, for your business, there's only one guy to call. That's VFL JJ Surlis and the team at Safety Systems. They've been doing it for more than 2 decades. They've got their little logo all over town. You see it on businesses, you see it in yards. And if you go to their website, you'll see that it's not just security systems. It's home automation, tremendous stuff there. They do it all. Safety Systems. Get in touch with them this week. Check them out online. Okay. Will, Sterling, and Marlon are over at the Players Bistro table. I started to cue up the French music, but I haven't done it yet. So they're over at the Bistro table, and I'm asking them to put themselves in the shoes of opposing coaches. And Will, you can start. If you're going into the season, I think most of us would have said, boy, opposing coaches have to dread how are we going to slow down Josh Heupel's offense. But is it a bigger question now? If you're the opponent, if you're the opposing coach, are you more worried about how are we going to get our own offensive ignited against that defense? Which way are you looking at it, Will?
I would be looking at it from the defensive side. How do we get our offense started? Because part of getting really the start or defeating this offense is maintaining the ball, right?
Yes,
Time of possession. So figuring out how am I going to run against this front seven? How am I going to get head of the chains? How do I get into third and manageable and not be behind the sticks and let this pass rush get to me? I think for a lot of offenses now, that becomes the priority as the coaching staff of where are we going to get our offense from? Where do we find those cheap, 3-4 yards that we can average? Because if we don't and we give this offense enough times, I think any defensive coordinator goes, we're going to give up points, and it's going to be a boat race, and we don't want that. So the offense has got to help out the defense. But to me, I think it's definitely that area. What about you first?
What I think, and I've said earlier in my last comment, the other offenses have got to be nervous because our defense is only operating at 70% right now. We haven't shown everything. Our main guys haven't playing a lot of plays right now. So when he gets activated, and now they're concerned about guys they didn't even know about up front in that front seven. So how you going to get an offensive game plan to go against something when you haven't seen it all yet? And that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, I would say that when you watch us play right now with a young quarterback, but he's coming, and I think defensive coaches and teams understand, all right, this offense is going to get better. He's going to get more familiar with his receivers. They're going to figure out scheme-wise what work, what don't work. But I still would say you're more worried about our defense because with this offense coming, there's going to be potential you got to get in a shootout. And if you can't score the football yourself, that offense is going to score points. So I think both of you guys are absolutely right on that.
And think about what you just said. Our offense is in the shootout, and we still put all these points on the board the first 2 games. Yeah. I'm just saying. And then our defense has not let it all out yet. We got some exciting times ahead of us in Ball Nation.
I think the one exciting thing I was to see is the tight end being back as a weapon in this. Yep. And for me, that is a harder this offense with a tight end that can block and be athletic and catch is a much more difficult offense than without. If you just have wide receivers, I don't think this offense is as prolific or as hard with the tight end.
I think what Preston Fenton did in this offense a couple years ago is discredited in a lot of ways, but that guy was scoring touchdowns. This guy was throwing touchdowns and also making key blocks.
Running back.
Yeah. When you have that tight end element, it looked like we've got 3 of them, just watching all 3 guys yesterday that can get open, that can also block you, but then also understand the scheme. So that makes it a lot scarier for sure, offense-wise.
Like I said, the tight end's already activated. Our wide receivers are I'm excited about what's about to happen in Vol Nation on offense, brother.
Well, there it is, John. I think, thinking of mostly us, think defense is the harder one to do. There you go. The music. But yeah, I think right now defense is the harder thing for these offenses. They know what the offense is going to be, but right now defense would be the struggle if you're coming in to play this Tennessee team right now.
Very good. The sounds of Paris behind our guys at the French Bistro table. All right. When we come back, will they or won't they? This is going to have to be a whole lot more about Tennessee than it will be about Kent State. Did you see Kent State score last night? They lost to St. Francis. Ever heard of St. Francis? I didn't think so. Come on back on the Sports Source. Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Games and Things. Football season is here, then basketball, then baseball. Folks, it's time to get a new home theater seat. It's the best way to watch at home and turn your house into just the place where everybody wants to go and watch games. Home theater seating, they got the best selection in the world. And if you're watching us Saturdays at 11 for the Saturday kickoff, you'll also see that we've built the Games and Things Arena. And what you'll see down there is the Tennessee branded Pop-A-Shot, Boss Toss, dartboard, shuffleboard. They've got it all. They can not only sell you the home theater seats, but they've got everything to make your home just an entertainment palace. Games and Things. All right. It's time for Will They or Won't They, and we've got our 4 VFLs over there. Mike, Sterling, Will, and Marlon. They've got their thumbs up, thumbs down, and the rest of us are over here at the podiums ready to dole out some hard-hitting information. Tennessee versus Kent State, and boy, did I have to dig deep to find some numbers for this one. All right, here we go. Question 1. Dylan Samson has run for 100 or more yards in his last 3 games, going all the way back to the Citrus Bowl. Will he rush for 125 against Kent State? We got yes, yes, no, yes. Will Overstreet. All right, Willie Raincloud, why?
I think they're going to get him a rest. I think they're not. I think they're going to try in this game, get him some action, but I don't think they're going to keep him out there very long. If they get up in this game, I just don't think he's going to get that many shots to get to that amount of yards because they're going to be like, we've worked him the last 2 games and we need him the next week. So I think if they have an opportunity, they're going to pull back the reins on him a little bit.
Chuck Cavaleris, does Dylan Sampson get 125 yards rushing?
Yes, I think he will.
Take that, Will Overstreet. There's sunshine on your cloud. Right. Next, Tennessee's defense has not allowed a touchdown in 3 games, going back to the Citrus Bowl. There's a theme here. Will Kent State, a team that scored just 19 touchdowns last year, the entire season, 19 touchdowns, worst out of 133 FBS schools, will the Golden Flashes score a touchdown versus Tennessee? Our guys say no, no. We got 2 yeses. All right, now I want to hear from both Marlon and Sterling, but I'm going to start with Sunshine Sterling. You think that it's Kent State who snaps the Vols' no touchdown streak?
For one reason. I think we get so far into the game where we have our 4th and 15 players playing. They also have their starters out there. They might have some success.
Marlon, you agree with that? I saw you shaking your head.
Same thing. We'll get our guys in that usually don't play, and they'll take advantage of it. They'll get one.
All right. Sterling and Marlon, negative. Josh, do you think Kent State is the team that scores a touchdown on the Vol defense?
I think Tim Banks really wants to pressure his defense, stress them. So I think in the 4th quarter he'll decide to go with 9 guys in the field. Otherwise, no, I don't think Kent State's scoring an offensive touchdown.
All right, very good. Next one, question 3. Tennessee has averaged 51.6 points per game since Nico took over at quarterback, going back to the Citrus Bowl. Will the Vols score 60 versus Kent State? We got 3 yeses and a negative for Mr. Stoll. Let me guess, the offensive line. Well, okay, why are you saying no?
So, I mean, that's a lot of points. And I changed my mind because Will was so intelligent with his rain cloud answer early. I think they're going to rest some of the starters early on. So I think they get up pretty early, and then I don't think they're going to score a ton of points with the backups.
I thought you were going to say the kicker was going to miss it.
He's going to miss it, and they're going to score 59.
Oh, Trey!
There you go. All right. Jimmy, do they score 60?
No, because I don't think Nico plays but the first half like he did against Chattanooga, and then I think Tennessee will be more inclined to run the clock in the second half, so I'm going to say no.
Okay. They scored 69 on Chattanooga with a bunch of backups.
I know.
I'm not so sure. We'll hang on for that question a little
They
later.
held St. Francis to 31 points.
I started to say, I got a question about Chattanooga versus Kent State we'll bring up later. All right. Tennessee's defense has recorded 18 tackles for loss through 2 games this season. Will they record at least 9 more versus Kent State? Yes, 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 yes. Everybody agrees on that one. That one's simple. Okay.
Is this a first half line? 9 in the first half?
9 in the first half. Do we all agree they get 9 tackles for loss against Kent State?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Last question in this segment. I'll ask the VFLs. Why are we playing this team again? What is the point of this game? What do you? What? No. Well, you're paying them. It's the best.
I know, but you get the revenue for the stand, you get the TV. I mean, it's an extra win to get money, right? I mean, that's all we're doing it for.
And it's right before a pretty tough stretch. So
Tell me, when you were players, would you look forward to playing Kent State before a big game?
Yes, because I'm taking my tape off at the end of the first quarter.
if I was a third team guy, yeah.
Absolutely. I
They're
mean,
gonna play.
even when you start, you want the other guys to have opportunity to get across that line, that put all their heart into it, doing 2 days also, which I don't think they even have those anymore.
No, they don't.
So, you want everybody to get a chance to play.
All right, very good. Appreciate it. When we come back, we'll play Beat the House, and Chuck will set the Cavaleris line. We'll talk more about the Golden Flashes and their defeat at the hands of St. Francis, a FCS school that won its first game against an FBS school yesterday by beating Kent State. Come on back on the Sports Source. Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Paper Be Gone. Whether it's online, emails, whether it's spamming texts, robocalls, or scumbags actually digging through your trash to find your records that you throw out, your old credit card statements or your business's old information. Everyone is trying to get your data. Protect yourself by using Paper Be Gone. They can destroy everything from paper records to x-rays to hard drives. They get rid of it all. Paper Be Gone, and they do it all in an environmentally friendly way. Good company. Give them a shout this week. paperbegone.com to learn more. That music means that's right. We're heading just east of Vegas to the Chucky C Note Casino. And we're going to play Beat the House featuring the Cavaleris line. Chuck Cavaleris sets the line for us, and everybody here has to bet money and make their pick again it. And let's go ahead and take a look at the standings from last week. Here's what we got. Daniel, who thumbed his nose at my "you can only go half in" rule, went half in and now leads the pool. He went 250. Everybody started with $500, and you can only bet half of what you got now. So whatever 750 divided by 2 would be. So he's at 750. Bob and Sterling both went in with $200, so they're at 700. Marlon is at 650. Jimmy, myself, and Will were all plus 100 at 600. We've had a ruling on the show so far today. You see, Mike, I forgot to ask him, and basically,
on purpose.
Yeah, on purpose. On purpose. I forgot to ask him, so I was going to give him $100. If I forget, I give you guys $100 if I forget to ask you if you're not here. Well, the guys on the show voted no, take 100 away, because whoever forgets, hey, it's on them to tell you, John, what their pick is. So, Mike, you're actually at 400. That's a minus 100 because you didn't remember to ask and I didn't remember to tell you.
Several panelists are kickers, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. And then that puts you in the basement next to in the basement next to Josh Ward, who actually took NC State to cover our 9.5-point line last week.
I was trying to help Chuck split the panel. And look how I get rewarded.
Let's go to Chuck. He's over at his casino, and you got the wipey board going. Chuck's job, it's not just to predict what the Vegas line will be. It's to try and split our panel. It's a difficult assignment I give him every week, but he does a great job with it.
Thank you, John.
Except for last week. Chuck, where are you putting the line for Kent State?
Boy, I tell you what, John, this could actually be a no line in Vegas. It would not surprise me if Vegas does not put a number on this game. The best thing about this game, guys, is it's kneeling at night. 7:45 kickoff, right?
Yeah, that's great.
And John, I watched online Kent State Golden Flash against the St. Francis Red Flash yesterday, and they were terrible, terrible. Our boys were going to run it up there this time. 64.5 is the Cavaleros line.
64.
Get you some of that, boys.
All right, very good. We'll have Chuck wheel his wipey out of the way there, and you can come back and sit down with the fellows. All right, let me ask the guys over here. I'll start. Daniel isn't here, so we'll get back with him later. Bob had to leave. So, Sterling, you're up next. Sterling, you got $700. That means you can go as high as $350. The line, 64.5.
64.5. I'm going to say 200, not 64.5.
Yeah, because nobody over there said 60, did they?
Nobody said
Did anybody say 60? Okay, well, I think I know where this thing's going. All right, so you say how much? 200?
200, not 64.5.
200, and you're taking Kent State.
I can't say
Put that on Twitter.
I can't say that, John.
Marlon, you got 650, and you can bet, I don't know, whatever half of 650 is.
All right, let's go.
Is it 375 or?
Let's go 200.
325.
Yeah, 320.
Kent State.
Wow.
200. We
All right, so same thing as Sterling.
Yeah.
All right, Kent State. Jimmy.
200 Kent State.
200 Kent State. Well, I would be next, so I'll just fall in line. 200 Kent State. You failed, Chuck. Mike Stoll, what are you doing?
$50 Tennessee.
$50 Tennessee. There you go. He's bailing you out. 50 on UT. Will Overstreet.
Yeah, I'll take 100 on Kent State.
100 on Kent State. Josh Ward.
Somebody's got to believe in the Vols here. Block another punt, take it back for a touchdown at the end, Jordan Ross. So I'll ride with Mike there at the bottom of the panel. 50 on Tennessee.
50 on UT. All right. Now, there's a question to be asked here in terms of FBS opponents. Is this the worst one to ever come into Neyland Stadium?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I think this could be you've seen FCS schools of the last 15 years that have been playing those duds. But in terms of bad FBS schools, and this is, I'm not going back to, they played Chattanooga, they played VMI back in 1931. I mean, in recent times, I think this is as bad as it gets in terms of what you got on the
worst.
schedule.
It's the first time they played a team that lost to St. Francis.
So, yeah, they've never played a team that St. Francis beat.
Yeah.
I hate these kind of games. You just hope. I always go back, and this is dating me and dating you two who played together. I always go back to Chuck Webb blowing up his leg against Pacific, and you lost your Heisman Trophy candidate back. You went on to win an SEC title, but you lost your star against Pacific in a do-nothing nonsense game. Bothers me. Yeah. No response from you?
Well, it was still, I think it was in the second quarter. It was early in the game he got hurt, if I remember correctly.
Second quarter.
Yeah, but, point being, you're still playing nobody.
You're still playing somebody, right? You're
playing nobody.
You're playing someone now.
Nobody.
Pacific was better. I think Walter Harris was the
coach.
He was. That's why he played.
So he put the hex on us because he loved kickers.
And at the end of the game, when I got in, the guy that hurt Chuck tried to tackle the Pearl. Separated shoulder. I'm just saying.
Oh, there you go. Same guy. Same guy.
Same exact guy.
All right. Beware Kent State. All right. Thanks to all these folks. Thanks to you for watching. Thanks to all our sponsors. They're the ones bringing this every single week, every single year. Year 22. We will see you right back here next Sunday. We'll see you Saturday at 11 a.m. WATD 6. See you then.